been continuing to grind on the car, and I've been getting a lot done recently. I really want to get it on the dyno soon, so I got to call the shop and see when I can schedule some time. But I've been doing a lot of bass tuning, playing around with some of the spark plug gaps, some of the dwell times and whatnot. So a lot of this video is going to be a lot of bass tuning and a lot of just minor adjustments and a lot of just looking at things and making sure everything's in check. So as you saw from that first clip, things are running pretty sweet. So I'm pretty happy with how things are going. I'm going to be taking off work this week. Not sure if I'm going to be working on the car a lot or if I'm going to be relaxing. But I'm considering ordering a lot of the stuff for my new sensor harness. So I want to add a lot of stuff like exhaust back pressure, exhaust gas temperature, coolant pressure, pre-IC pressure, crankcase pressure, pre-IC temperature, like a bunch of different sensors to a mega squirt and whatnot. So without further ado, let's get this footage going. Ended up getting a lot done yesterday. I replaced my coolant reservoir with a brand new one. Also got OEM Vovlo coolant in there, and it looks so much better. Heater core is also all fixed. No leaks. Happy about that. Also put in the new pipe and everything, and the new heater core, and all new O-rings, and also all new clips and everything down there. So we're all leak proof there. Car's running really good. I got it running like 18 pounds up in the top end. It still has a 7-pound spring in it. It does creep quite a bit. Maybe it's because of wastegate positioning, or maybe it's just because the turbine housing is so large. But I'm gonna put a 14-pound spring in that eventually, but I wanna get a base tune on a 7-pound spring. So it usually runs like 7-8 pounds, and then it creeps up to 18 by like $8 grand, 8,500, which, I mean, at that point the engine's moving a lot of air. So, maybe the wastegate's just not big enough. I don't know, but I mean, if my minimum is 14, 18 pounds, that's not a problem because I can pretty much still get traction in second gear and above. But yeah, I also wanted to double check the timing, so I'm going to show that real quick, and I wanted to just double check and make sure my tensioner was still tight and everything. But everything's running really good. We got like, this engine is it's running so good. There's like no blow by. On my previous engines where the rings were cracked, this thing would dump oil, and there's like look, it's nothing. Fuel system is also working very well. It fixed my problems with running out of fuel after 14 pounds, and there's also no leaks. Just take a look at it real quick. Here she is. I also put those boots on it for the terminals, so no water or any crap gets in there. And yeah, it's working really well. No leaks from the stock tank over to this tank, and no leaks up front, no leaks in between. So I'm really happy with how that came out. And yeah, let's check the timing real quick, and I'll show you guys how that's done in Mega Squirt. I assume it's going to be fine. It shouldn't have changed from when I first set it, but just want to double check. All right, so ignition on. Hear those pumps prime. They're hilarious how loud they are. And then I come in here to ignition settings, ignition options, wheel decoder, and then instead of using use table, I use fixed timing, and I set that to 0 degrees, and then I burn that. And the car's gonna run pretty rough at 0 degrees because of how big the cams are and everything and how much overlap there is. So I'm probably gonna have to pedal it for a little bit until I get it idling, and then we'll go check the timing. So let's get her started up. Okay, we got 0 degrees. So now let's go check the timing. So I do want to make note of another thing. Let me turn on my fuel pump real quick and I'll show you. I did end up setting the base fuel pressure from 28 pounds to right about 36 pounds right there. And basically I did that because I'm no longer limited by flow at higher pressures with the new fuel pumps. And this allowed me to effectively run my injectors at 2000 cc's. So now I went from 1720s to 2000s by just upping the fuel pressure a little bit. I can go even higher to 43 pounds, which is 3 bar, and run them at 2200 cc. It could probably go even a little bit more than that if I need to, closer to 23, 24. But 2000 cc should be plenty for the 14 to 20 pounds I want to run for now. So I just wanted to tell you guys that and basically show you how that's. I also set up my oil pressure, so that's on sensor 2. It's in pounds per square inch. And I have low pressure triggers engine shut off, time out at low pressure, 0.1 second. And here you can see the max I set to 100 PSI because that's the most my sensor can read. I'm not really concerned about max oil pressure. I'm really concerned about minimum. So here you can see I set this curve right here. And I set this based upon what my oil pressure does while driving. So this is a little bit lower, probably about 10 PSI lower than what I normally see. So this will allow the engine to shut off if I ever have oil pressure issues, which, you know, I shouldn't. So really cool feature of MS, and really gonna help save my butt in case. So now that I can finally rev above 7K or 14 PSI, starting to face a couple small ignition issues, and you can kind of see these as these dips right here. So let's see if I can get this cursor to move, come on. Oh, yeah, reload the file, yeah, blah, 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 okay. So here you can see white is the RPM, and you can see that it's kind of oscillating and dipping. And you can also see that the air-fuel ratio goes a little lean here from 11.4 to 12.0 and then back to 11.3. So that is making me think that the engine is misfiring, and it's probably spark blowout. So when the engine misfires, most people probably think it reads rich because of the fuel, but it actually reads lean because of all the air. And we can see down here status 4. Where is it? There it is. Status 6, I mean, is getting set from 0 to 4, which means there's an AFR fuel cut. So this was running at dwell 3 milliseconds. The ignition 1A coils I have can run, you know, 4, 5.5 milliseconds, no problem. So before I try, and I'm running 30 thousandths spark plug gap. So before I try closing up that gap, I'm going to try running more dwell, because I've really been babying these coils, and the high compression engine, you know, the 11-to-1, really requires a lot of ignition power, especially when you're getting up into, you know, 16, 18 pounds. So that's what I'm trying to clean up right now. I got the fuel really cleaned up. It was running super rich for a while because I ran it, you know, I set it to run really rich and then slowly pulled out fuel. But you can see this whole area looks, you know, really good. So I cleaned up this whole area, and then cruise looks really good. And then if we pop into the 3D view, you can see just how smooth the fuel map looks. Like there's no large spikes or anything. So that means everything is in good working order. So I'm gonna go try doing a pull at, you know, 4 milliseconds at dwell, and seeing if that cleans up my ignition issues. And if not, I'll try increasing it a little bit more. And if that doesn't fix it, then I might have to start looking into spark plug gap or start looking at other things. So I'm gonna go take the car around for a spin, warm it up, and so my logs are looking a little bit better. Here you can see we're running 6,075, so we hit about 7,700 RPM, but I'm actually hitting a boost cut. You can see status 1, I think. We can look in here, and here we see Overboost is status 2 and 64. So let's see if we're overboosting. So let's take a look at status 2. Yeah, so you can see status 2, we hit 96, which is overboost and spark cut. And then status 6, we can see go from 64 to 68, which is AFR warning because we spark cut and we ran lean, which that's fine because we already spark cut before we ran lean. You know, the AFR warning is just triggering because you boost cut. So it's pretty sweet, all these warnings and you know, error corrections and handlings that Megasquirt has. But the other issue, I'm not really going to call it an issue, is some boost creep. So if we look at our boost 6.5, so let's get that up to 7. So we have a 7-pound spring in there. So at about 5,500, we're making 7 pounds. And then we creep all the way up to 76. We creep to about 20 pounds. This could be a couple issues, but I believe the issue is that the turbine housing is just so massive. You know, it's a 1.32 AR housing, that the pressure differential between the turbine and the wastegate just isn't big enough for it to really effectively flow out the gate. Maybe, I don't think a 44 is too small, and I don't think that the angle placement matters, because it's all about pressure, right? It's all about path of least resistance. So it's not really a problem per se. Basically just means the minimum amount of boost I can run is 20 pounds. So I'm gonna try and fix this overboost issue. I'm gonna set it up to 25 pounds of boost cut. We'll go do a hit, try and get her to 8,000 RPM. And then what I'm probably gonna end up doing is putting in a 20-pound spring configuration. So I got all my springs here, and I think it was black, red, and yellow. So I'm gonna try and get this boost cut issue resolved first, and then I'll probably let the car cool down for a couple hours and maybe toss a 20-pound spring in it, and we can really start running some boost through her. But I also scoped the cylinders again. Everything looks perfect. Timing's good, compression's good, so really happy with how everything's running. Okay, so I ended up fixing all of the AFR warnings and the boost cuts, and all my statuses down here stay 0, which means nothing's cutting. But here you can see a pull at 3 milliseconds of dwell that I just did, and you can see how jaggedy it is, and I could actually, you know, I could really hear the misfires. And we're getting up around 20 pounds of boost. So our battery voltage is dropping down to 13.1. So, I mean, that's around 30 pounds of boost if we're talking at 8.5 to 1 compression. So cylinder pressure is pretty high, because remember, this isn't 11 to 1, well, 11.2 to 1 compression engine. So I decided to crank the dwell up to 4.5, and let's see one of those logs. I think that's this one, yep. And you can see how much more smooth the RPM is. See how there's no dips, no jaggedy dips at least? And you can see we rev all the way out to 8,100. There is one little dip here. Let's see, there's one little dip there, but we're not showing any AFR warnings or fuel cuts or anything. Let's see if our, let's see what our injection time is at. And you can see it's still injecting fuel right here. So, I didn't really hear any blowout on that, but you can see we're running 12.47, so battery correction will add a little bit more, so 13.7. Let's see what our battery voltage is at 8,100. 12.9. Yeah, so I might have to get a bigger pulley for my alternator to have it spin a little bit slower so it can sustain voltage. Or what I might need to do is get a DC to DC boost converter for the coils. But I think if I just leave it at 5 milliseconds for now, it should be pretty good, and I can leave it at my 30 thousandths gap, or I can gap it down to 25 thousandths, but I really prefer the larger gaps. And I can push these coils pretty hard. I just got to I'll do the math and I'll see what duty cycle, you know, I can run them up to. I think it's about 80%, and I think I'm around 66%. So gonna keep looking into this. All right, so the car is running awesome. I'm super happy with the performance. I'm gonna get that 20-pound spring in, but did a quick compression test. We got 200, 200, 195, 205, 205. So that is absolutely ecstatic. That's like the first time I've broken 200 on most of the cylinders. So this thing's really breaking in nice. We're about, I think we're close to 900 miles now. 878. So yeah, we're about to hit 900, and this thing's really starting to break in. So hopefully we can get that third cylinder up closer to 200. I'm gonna compression test it one more time just to make sure, you know, it wasn't an anomaly or anything. But super happy with the performance. Gonna get that 20-pound spring in, and then we can really start making some. Threw the car up on the lift just to make sure there's no more leaks, and I don't really see anything. I don't see any oil splatter over here. Transmission's pretty dry now. I still have this CV boot leak. You can see goop. So I gotta replace, I'm just gonna replace all 4 of the CV boots. But yeah, I think there's like a little drip from the filter from when I did an oil change. But like, I don't really see anything major. The turbo's dry. I might have to replace that V-band eventually. It's kind of looking a little weird, but I don't see any carbon on it, so it's probably okay. Fuel lines look great, no leaks. Just gotta fix that CV boot really. So she's looking good. I'm so happy this thing's running good. All right, finally time to start turning up that boost. So we're gonna get that wastegate pulled off. It's a huge pain in the ass to get that thing off, so I'm probably not gonna show too much. And we're gonna get the 20 pounds worth of springs in there. So let's get that done real quick, and then we can start driving this thing and see what it's like driving. So I didn't end up getting the springs in. Basically, Allen key on top, ratchet on the bottom. It's really hard. And then what I do is I use this little air compressor to pressurize the gate so that the fire ring actually seats in the flange, and then you get the clamp over it and then bolt her down. So that's all set. Got to put the plugs back in. I'm thinking about replacing them. I was hitting, a little bit of a spark blowout, and I'm thinking about gapping them down a little bit. I mean, they look pretty good. So maybe I'll just gap these ones down, but I might as well replace them. They're so cheap, they're like $2 a piece. So I'm gonna decide on that and then take the car out and see what it's like, running 20 pounds. I'm sure it's gonna be nuts actually making, 20 pounds at, 5,000 all the way to 8,500 instead of just starting to make 20 pounds at, 7,500 because of the creep with the 7-pound spring. So looking forward to it. Gonna clean things up, maybe throw some new plugs.